Hey traders, this is Christian Farmer at Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Wednesday, October 7th, and really nice rebound day basically back to yesterday's levels. Before we kind of get into the nitty gritty, risk disclaimer in front of you, everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. So let's start with the performance as usual. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. But I mean, this is it's pretty remarkable, right? Considering where we were, yesterday. I would say this: I was probably, a little bit. I think, as everybody was, just a little bit shell shocked yesterday, just to see how fast that move was to the downside and how quickly things can kind of come undone in the market. I'll talk about that in just a minute, and I'll talk before we get into today's price action and today's trades and so forth. We'll circle back to yesterday just to kind of close the loop on some things that you can kind of learn a little bit from yesterday, or some takeaways from yesterday. First of all, small caps led again, so some of those themes that we saw the last couple days, just kind of showed continuation. And, quite honestly, I wasn't sure if we were seeing a change yesterday. When you have that type of a reversal yesterday, sometimes you need to kind of see how the market is going to react to it. I didn't make any major changes, in terms of portfolio or trading or anything like that. I kind of just sat back and said, wow, that's kind of interesting. Let's see how this develops, for tomorrow. Because as we know, one day is not a trend. It was a pretty ugly day yesterday, but yeah, I mean, if you look at some of these things that outperformed, it doesn't look a lot different than what we've seen over the last few days. The small caps outperformed, up 2.17%. S&P was up almost 2% for the day, and again, good movement throughout the day. They added to gains from the overnight section. Bonds also, they were one of the first things that I realized this morning. I do try to look at the bond market for some clues and kind of an indication of some things. They did rebound from the lows right around 5:30 today, but you could see, they gave back that big spike yesterday in bonds, right? They went from being down on the day to like up 1%, obviously in like a matter of 10 minutes. But then they kind of trickled out the gains, throughout the rest of the session and the overnight session and until the cash open today. I noticed that they got back to where they were. So again, sometimes the bond market. I hate the term smart money, so I'm I'm looking for something else to describe it. But the bond market just seems to kind of know a little bit more, I think, than the equity market, right? I look at credit spreads and things like that for warning signs, for danger alerts, but also something like this in terms of overall risk. So that was one of the things that I thought was notable and just kind of continuation from what we saw earlier in the week. Gold and silver, kind of a non-factor again today. Silver outperformed but underperformed yesterday. I mean, amazing continuation in solar and clean energy, up another 5%. On top of some crazy moves already. There's definitely something to learn here as well. You could have said a couple days ago that the solar and clean energy group was overbought, and I think younger traders, what they do sometimes is they see these types of moves, and rather than stick with the trend, they want to fade these moves. They think, oh, that shouldn't be up this much, and it's something that I've kind of learned over time as a trend trader to stick with the trend, because that's where some outsized gains can be made versus trying to pick when the trend is going to reverse, right? I mean, this thing. How much? First of all, how much is the solar ETF up year to date? Because again, as we've talked about in multiple videos, this is not something new. it's really accelerated the last 2 weeks, but the performance, and I am holding this. It's up 132% year to date, so that's some crazy performance over 1 year. 142%. And yeah, what's the performance? I guess in the last month, obviously, there's been a pickup there, up 38% just in the last month. Very very impressive. And like I said, I own the TAN ETF in what's known as my tactical portfolio. That's a portfolio that I'm holding stocks and ETFs because this is hard. I mean, I was in ENPH, and I was happy with the game with the gains. So anyway, I'll move on from this because we've talked a lot about solar and clean energy moves, but this is crazy. I must have gotten out, I think, in the upper 80s, and this thing has gone up to 107. So yeah, it's one of those things and the reason why I'm bringing it up too is because everybody needs to kind of improve on these things, including myself. Just sticking in something that does one of these hockey stick type moves. Again, that's where you can really earn outsized moves. You just have to kind of stick with the trade. So I'm glad I'm sticking with the TAN ETF as I've been sticking with it. But it would have been nice to stay with a couple other ones. I'm also in some CSIQ in our watch list trade. This thing has been raging this week too. So at least I kind of have that in there. So I mentioned that I would talk about a couple things besides. So first of all, let me go through the rest of the performance. Besides clean energy, what we're starting to see is really what I've got here written down is also really strong market breadth. So let's see. So where do I want to get into that first? Let me talk a little bit about yesterday's price action. Uh, I've kind of talked about this a lot in the trading room, but unfortunately, every once in a while you're going to get a reversal like we saw yesterday. Now, yesterday's reversal was very fast, but since we're kind of back to where we were yesterday, let me bring up the S&P chart. I will ask you this question. Are you selling into strength? Right? I think that this is something. This 3420, rounding up a little bit, is the top of value. Right? That's resistance. Now we could get through resistance, but we did get rejected there. We did hit this point yesterday and got rejected. So we're at there again. Could we break it? We could, but from a disciplined trading standpoint, on a day where we're up decently like this, I think you kind of want to have your game plan drawn out, right? If you didn't get the chance to sell yesterday because of the reversal, I get it, right? And that's very difficult. But today you kind of got it. So you have to kind of ask yourself, in your trading account versus, I have a trading account and I also have a tactical portfolio account, which is a portfolio of about 30 names, which I stay long and manage them individually, so they do have stop prices in there. But in my trading account, I'm making adjustments, and I'll show you my trades for the day. But I'm selling into some strength, right? I'm not selling out of everything because what do we know? Where do the majority is the alpha return to the market? It's actually returned in the overnight market, right? If you look at the relationship back 20, 30 years, the majority of the moves happen in the overnight market. So that's why I keep trades on, right? Instead of just day trading. I know some people like to do that. I've learned over time that you can scalp and you can make some money day trading and so forth. But really, the majority of the market is made in staying long for the overnight moves. Again, and I'm not making this up. This is fact. If you Google that, you can are the moves made overnight or intraday, right? I think there's a crazy. I don't have the stat in front of me, but there's a crazy number where if you bought the close and sold the open, you would have a huge return versus doing it the other way around, which is buying the open and selling the close, right? The performance is drastic. So that said, I do make adjustments and I sell into strength, and I thankful that we closed up here. But yeah, I mean, I think right now that's kind of the way, until we get through the election and through some of this noise, I want to be making those adjustments through October. So really, that's the lesson. So, and if you got hit really hard in P&L yesterday, it could be a couple different things. It could be you're just carrying too much risk. You could also be carrying too much short-term risk via options. So those are some of the lessons that I try to make sure that traders are aware if they're trading short-term options, how much risk they're carrying. Because yes, if you get a nasty reversal bar, it could really kind of shake up your week a little bit, right? And you want to be prepared for these things a little bit, and how you can kind of control that. Because again, that's one thing that you can't control those, those types of nasty reversals, but you can control how much you're risking, how many positions you have on, and how much short-term risk you're carrying. All right, so that's on you, right? As a trader and as an investor. So think about that, and when the market is green, I know it's harder to be proactive about it rather than reactionary, right? It's a big it's a big concept in trading. All right, so that's the performance. I mentioned I would talk about market breadth, right? So if we look at the advanced decline line, so I made this point earlier. At Tribeca Trade Group, we have Q&A sessions Monday and Wednesday, and we do a look ahead on for the weekend on Friday. But there I answer any questions that members have regarding trading options, charts. We go over a lot of chart requests and trade. And I'll tell you, the Tribeca Trade Group members really have been coming up with some great, phenomenal trading ideas. I've been participating in a couple of them too. So really nice, homegrown, organic trade ideas coming from our group. But the advanced decline line. So this is a concept I was talking about, how this kind of changed about, towards the end of September, right around September 23rd. Breadth every day. Remember those couple weeks back or few weeks in September, it felt like the analogy that I like to use, or that we like to use in the trading room, is the wind was in our faces. Every time the market bounced, if we looked at the overall breadth of the market, there was more decliners than there was advancing. Even on the up days, right? There was an issue with that, and that got straightened out right around the 23rd. And what we've seen since then, except for a couple days, right? And there's a time lag with this, so this won't update for today's market activity until tomorrow. But it's been more, the wind has been at our backs in terms of market breadth. And if you look at the numbers the raw numbers for today, and look at the 4-week highs versus lows, right? So this is what I mean in terms of the wind is at your back. The market is pushing to the upside. There's really good participation, right? So again, it's an important concept. When it's the other way around, right? When the wind is in your face, in terms of more new 4-week lows, more new 52-week lows, right? You're swimming upstream, kind of against the market if you're playing it to the long side. So just a concept to kind of remember a little bit, to be always a little bit more conservative when breadth is bad versus strong breadth, which is what we've seen literally the last couple weeks now. So that's my quick concept on that. And if you look at some of these other areas, right? So, IYT, the transports, which were strong a couple weeks ago, they hit that virgin point of control and kind of faded, right? It's why we use virgin point of controls, right? It's a big thing. Price takes these out and sometimes does a little bit of a reversal, but basically back to all-time highs here in the transports ETF. And then we just saw a lot of other areas too that are breaking out. So it's not, going back to that breadth concept, it's not just a few areas. Now we've got really some strong things going on. So let me get into some of my trades for the day, and yeah, so you could see what I was kind of. So first of all, yesterday, right? This is yesterday's trades, which I went over in the room yesterday. I really kind of try to stay level-headed, and I added to some things like Home Depot and Apple. Home Depot I thought would work decently because there's a hurricane, kind of like a hurricane trade. Apple because there's an iPhone event. I could tell you the Apple didn't really work that great, but the Home Depot did. And just to kind of, stay, I added trades like UPS yesterday on a breakout, and I was able, you could see all the selling that I was doing here in the first 15 minutes, right? Selling into strength. USB was a bank trade that I put on. I managed to get my first target in that today. Netflix was a really nice day trade that I put on right on the open. So we went over that in the pre-market session today at Tribeca Trade Group. Right? I talked about how it got a street high price target. So what I did with this, right? I bought some weekly calls for a day trade, and that worked very well. I took them off somewhere in here. But I got long on like the first 5-minute bar, I think. I started to kind of leg into those. I took a target in Netflix at $12, and then I went ahead and I added it back. This was at 10.19, right? And then I got out at Netflix. There's one exit. Right, and there's my other exit, 13. So this was a nice trade today. And then what I did is I took profits because I think, from where I think Netflix can go to, right, is 551, right? And don't forget, you've got earnings just a couple weeks away in Netflix. So what did I do? I rolled my profits, right? Important concept. Some people, some traders, they make some money in something and they're happy, they go away. However, the stock may not be done, and I don't know if Netflix is going to be done here. So what I did is I structured with my profits an October 545.50 call spread for 310. And if this name manages to, Netflix runs into earnings up to 550, targeting this virgin point of control, then I've got more profits, right? So I'm messing with the house's money, or I'm messing with the profits from the trade. So that was a nice little trade, while I was taking profits in some other things. KWeb, the Chinese Internet ETF, took some profits in this. I decided to take the money and run in UPS today. So that was a nice trade. So again, making sure that I'm taking some money off the table. Again, I think important concepts, as I talked about in the beginning of the video. I played a little bit of Tesla, made a little bit of money in Tesla. Wasn't greedy there as well. I think Tesla kind of gave back some profits. Although I'm hearing there's a street high price target that was announced after the close. So, but it wasn't acting great at the end of the day. Upgraded to buy. I don't even know who this broker is. New Street, but 578 price target. So anyway, that was a nice trade. But and then we caught a couple other things too. I managed to, again, take a target in LVGO at 147. I think this name reverted back. Again, that's why you take targets. I took off my last piece of Deer. So again, taking profits in some things. You can add a couple new trades too, but I want to be a net seller on big green days. CNR, so new name I've never heard before. But I like the group, right? Building materials, this weekly chart, it needs to close. It needs to basically stay here. So again, a low price stock. We saw a big call buyer out. I believe it was in March 2022. Sorry. And this looks interesting to me. Construction type name. So and I've got a level to trade against, 816. So even though I'm in calls in this one, you basically know where the trade's going to work versus not going to work. I'm sorry, March 21. I followed the ones that we saw on the tape, and I got a target in those at 150. Just a few other names too to kind of look at for tomorrow. This was one of the ones that was brought up by a Tribeca Trade Group member today. Breaking value here in big lots. So nice green bar, closes above value. Again, you got a defined trade here with a stop at 48. I just went into stock for now. Where do I think it can get to for ultimate target? $53. also notice it's above value on the 1 hour. So pretty good looking. Another name that I'm watching for tomorrow, no position, is Pinterest. I like consolidations after a breakout. Notice you have 1, 2, 3, 4 days inside. So let me put that name on your radar for tomorrow. I have an alert set on it. All right, guys, that's it for tonight. Overall, again, great day. Really, obviously happy with the way things turned out today from where we were yesterday. And I took advantage of it. I took advantage of it by selling into it and making sure that I'm up decently now for the month of October, and we'll build on that. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.